Again, take two. Okay, the next question.
All right.
Second question, I'm freaking struggling. Welcome back to Harbour Unboxed. Today is our monthly Q&A that Tim and I do now once a month. We did it last month, we're doing it this month, so it's now a monthly Q&A. We will be doing it from Tim's studio, so not my place. We're still setting up Tim's studio. There might be a little bit of echo with the audio, but hopefully it's not too bad. So anyway, we've asked questions on Twitter, on the community section on YouTube. We've asked our patrons. Got a couple of good questions that we're going to address, so let's get to it.
All right, so the first question comes from our Discord chat that you get through our Patreon subscriptions, I guess, from user RevelDevil2000. They ask, do you guys have any ideas or things you think might happen to separate the graphics card market from miners to make everyone happy?
That'd be nice.
Got any ideas, Steve?
I've thought about this a bit. I don't really have any great answer that will probably solve the problem. I don't think anyone does. I think they would have to make it first that if they want to, I suppose, stop miners from using gaming graphics cards and then come up with some other solution, you'd have to have the drivers detect mining and then nerf the mining performance of the cards they don't want to mine.
Yeah, which would be pretty difficult, I think, to prevent people from, flashing the BIOSes and all that sort of thing. But really, if they could prevent people from using gaming cards for mining, that would allow gamers to actually buy cards and use them for gaming, which is what everyone wants.
Yeah, that's right. So there's the hacking of the driver there, or the firmware. They would have to make it so the firmware gets certified by the driver. So there's like multiple levels of security there. So if anything, it becomes less of a deterrent. Like, it's a lot of effort to hack a gaming card to mine on. And I suppose my solution, which probably isn't a great solution for miners, I'm thinking more out for the gamers here. So I don't know how keen NVIDIA and AMD will be to actually shaft miners. I can't imagine that's too high on their to-do list. They may want to present that way to the gaming market, but I'd say they're pretty happy with miners buying their products. But one option would be to make accelerator type cards for mining that may be better for mining, more durable, are designed to run 24/7 under heavy load, and probably don't have either any display connectors or just one, because you don't need that for mining, obviously. The disadvantage there is, for the miners, is that they're buying a card that is obviously going to be used for mining and doesn't have a resale value for gamers. So if the mining bubble does eventually burst or whatever, you can't just offload them. And the great thing for gamers there would be they know if they're buying a card that's been absolutely flogged mining or if it's been used for gaming.
Yeah, I think the resale value is a big thing that sort of dictates a lot of those accelerator cards being less popular for miners, from what I gather.
Yep.
So I think what I'd personally do is have a card, like a regular consumer card that is gaming only and uses some of those BIOS protections that we were just talking about, but then also have a card that is unlocked for mining and gaming, so that a miner, once the mining market crashes or something, could still resell these cards to gamers if they want, so there's still resale value there. But then gamers have the ability to buy the gaming only cards when there's these big influx of miners. There'll be availability of those cards, and something like that I think could work really well, have that dual system.
I think that's probably a more realistic option to what I propose. I think that's something they could definitely do and would make sense. Okay, the next question comes from Radeon subreddit. Do you have high hopes for Ryzen Mobile, or do you think the competition from NVIDIA or Intel is too much? And I'm going to hand that one over to Tim, because that's very much up your alley.
Yeah, so from all the testing I've been doing on Ryzen Mobile, I think it's really good. Like, it's a really good chip. The problem comes when AMD sells a lot of these to 15-inch systems, or OEMs decide to put them in 15-inch notebooks, because that's where we get the Intel CPUs being paired with something like an NVIDIA MX150, which is a really popular sort of GT 1030 type discrete GPU. So when you get that combo, Intel and NVIDIA, gains a performance lead. Those start to be really attractive, and the Ryzen APU by itself, it struggles a little bit to compete there as well. Whereas where I think it's going to be really good and I have really high hopes for is in the 13-inch notebooks, because in those notebooks, there's not as much space. We don't see discrete GPUs in there as often. And Ryzen Mobile is so far ahead of Intel's integrated graphics that it really makes it, it's a night and day difference for things like gaming on something, hopefully on something like the Ryzen 7 2700U. So once we start getting those into those really thin and light 13-inch ultra portables where you can't buy discrete GPUs, that's where I think Ryzen Mobile will be really awesome and will compete really strongly. In fact, it'll almost obliterate Intel, I would think, in that sort of market.
Okay, the next question is from the community section on YouTube, and it's been asked by Boss Brown Sugar. How much risk am I taking by not downloading the Intel kernel security update? Well, that's a good question. Many people are asking that one. Have you any thoughts on that?
Oh, well, I think, the vulnerability is out in the wild now. It's known how to exploit it, at least in some way. We're not security experts or anything, so it seems like it's fairly difficult to exploit. But, as soon as that stuff's out in the wild, people are going to be using this. You might find yourself, going somewhere you don't expect or something, and they're keylogging your passwords or your credit card info. So there's always a risk from keeping that sort of thing unpatched. What do you reckon?
Well, I pretty much agree with everything you said there. We're not security experts, but what we do know is that it's now a known vulnerability. And the risk of that, it's hard to say at this point. But as Tim says, people will get better at exploiting that vulnerability down the track. And it's, not something you want to have on your system. It's hard enough to keep things secure as it is without having known vulnerabilities that can, password snooping and all the things they can potentially do with this. So depends on what risk you want to take. But personally, I would want it patched up to as being as secure as possible.
All right, so the next question comes from Twitter from Sandperson. Interesting username there. Is console gaming a better experience per dollar right now? So I guess this is coming from, a person wanting to build a PC, but, is running into all the problems with GPU availability, RAM pricing, all that sort of thing.
All that fun stuff.
It's an interesting thing to think about because a lot of the time what you want to use a PC for is not necessarily what you want to use a console for. It's a very different experience. But, if you just want to get out there and play games, the latest AAA titles or whatever, and you're thinking of building a mid-range system just for games, you might, in some cases, be better suited to one of the more powerful, consoles like Xbox One X, PS4 Pro. You can do a lot of good quality gaming on that from your couch. But at the same time, if you wanted to sit at a desk and, do that sort of PC-like stuff, you're not going to get that from a console. So, it's a really interesting position to be in at the moment. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I have pretty much the same take on it, really. I'm not anti-console by any means. I make a couple of console jokes in my benchmark videos now and then. For me, it's just a totally different thing. Like, I've played consoles with friends and it's a really fun, great experience, but it's not the type of gaming I prefer to do most of the time.
Yeah.
So I like my keyboard and mouse. I like playing real-time strategy games. So if I want to play a car racing game or something like that, then console's great fun, or just casual gaming. But it's almost like two different sports, I find, consoles and PCs. I don't know why there's always this big clash between them because they're just so different. Like, you either want that experience or that one or a bit of both. So, as you said at the start, if you were thinking of buying a budget PC and then you're like, should I just get a console? It's like, well, you were kind of looking at doing something different to that. So it depends on what experience you want, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is from Jason on Twitter. Will you ever have more budget-orientated video, or I suppose do budget-orientated videos on anything? CPUs, GPUs, laptops? Well, we do pretty much every budget CPU and GPU I cover at length. Like, we did a lot of stuff on the G4560. I know guys were starting to get sick of that, but it was a great buy. Ryzen 3 we covered extensively. And then even I did a 20-plus game comparison of the RX 550 and GT 1030. So we've done lots of budget stuff. We are very heavily focused on value at Hardware Unboxed. It's not just about 1080 Ti's, buy those. We try to work out what is the best bang for your buck and try to cover all scenarios and look at it from many different angles and buyer perspectives. I think budget monitors would be cool, and even gaming
Yeah,
laptops.
it's definitely something that I've been looking into, is getting more of the budget stuff, as well as getting some of the stuff from the Korean brands that people are always talking about. I think it'd be really interesting to review those.
Definitely.
The problem with a lot of review samples for displays, laptops, smartphones, whatever, is that companies are a lot more willing in those markets to push their high-end products. So it's a lot harder to get your hands on the budget stuff. And we can ask for them, and but they're always trying to push their latest and greatest, $900 monitor or whatever. So
Yeah.
It's something we're definitely looking into. Definitely this year, I'm hoping to get in a lot more of the budget stuff, because that's what you guys are more interested in. It just can be a little bit difficult working out with the companies to try and get that stuff in. All right, so the next question comes from Twitter again. This is from a username I'm definitely going to be butchering here.
Apologies in advance.
Shravan Parthasarathi. That's as good as a guess I'm going to get for that one. So, thoughts on buying FX chips right now? Steve, what do you reckon on the FX chips?
I assume they mean AMD FX.
Oh, yeah.
We've touched on this a fair bit on the channel. Whenever I bash these, I upset FX owners. So I am sorry, but it is also my opinion that they're rubbish chips and you should have never bought them. So, sorry. They were just never good. They really weren't ever good, and they're definitely not good today. If you had bought a Sandy Bridge 2500K or 2600K, you could still be using that today. Very power efficient, excellent gaming performance, and also good at other things as well, like productivity workloads, whereas the FX chip is just really power hungry, useless at gaming. Modern Core i3s, the G4560, gives the, 4-module, 8-core FX chips a real run for their money. Basically, putting it into car terms, an FX chip's got the power of a Volkswagen Polo. Actually, they're pretty zippy. Maybe that's maybe a good example.
A Daihatsu.
Yeah, and it's got the fuel consumption of a GDR with a hole in the fuel tank. It's
they're no good.
No, they got no performance, and they just so power hungry. It's insane. Okay, the next question again comes from Twitter, and this one is Albert Cazares. Hopefully I got that right. Sorry if I didn't. How big of an impact do you think Volta is going to have on consumer-grade GPUs? I suppose we should probably just answer this by saying we have no idea about Volta. We don't know any more than pretty much you guys reading the news stories and whatever rumours or things get leaked out. So I don't know what to expect in terms of performance. I don't know how NVIDIA are going to go about it. They're pretty much just competing with themselves at this point, so we'll have to wait and see, basically. Would you say, if they're going to release something?
Yeah, there's been rumours that they're going to announce something at GTC in March.
Oh, okay.
But they're rumours, so you're never really sure.
Yeah.
I think it's just, it's the same as all the previous NVIDIA launches, really. They come out, they're competing largely with themselves at the high end because AMD is more in the mid-range, and they just released new graphics cards that are fairly priced considering their monopoly on the high end. They've got more performance, lower power consumption. You can get more performance for your dollar. That's sort of been what NVIDIA is doing. I think we're going to see exactly the same thing with Volta, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it has to be attractive to the consumers to buy. Yeah. Otherwise, they're not going to buy it. And they want to see strong sales. And yeah, I mean, the way it works for us is we might hear some rumours and things like that we can kind of confirm or not. But I mean, really nothing concrete. And then it's usually 2 or 3 weeks before release, NVIDIA will say, we've got a product ready, we're sending it out, sign the NDA. We sign that, and that's non-disclosure agreement, so we can't say anything else based on the information they give us. And then the card will arrive. We usually get the review guide about the same time. That tells us pretty much everything we need to relay that information to you guys. We do all the benchmarking, all the testing, and sometimes we don't even know the price that they're going to set
doing this
till the day before. Sometimes it's an insane or short period of time that we get to then write a conclusion. It's very difficult for video because for the written stuff, I can do everything and leave my conclusion and sort of guess where I think it's going to be priced and make a few notes based on that. And then when you get the price, finish it off. But for video, you can't even film it till you have the price because
it changes so much.
That's right. So you can't really film the conclusion and go, so we've got to the point where now, is it good or not? I don't know. We read the comments below when I get the price. So you've just got to wait and film it last minute. Okay, Luck in Me won the top upvoted comment on the community section of our YouTube channel. And the question was, what was your job before YouTube? So it sounds like a lot of our viewers are interested in what we did before YouTube. Well, I think I've said this before on the channel, but I'll quickly cover it. Started YouTube just over a year ago now. Before that, I did TechSpot for 10 years or something, and I started my own tech site before that. And then before that, I worked at Coles, packing shelves for about a year and a half, and that was during school. So during school, got a part-time job, then started my own tech site, then got a job at TechSpot, and now the YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's pretty similar for me, to be honest. Pretty similar. I'm a bit younger than you, Steve, so not as much time to be working at TechSpot. But I've been working at TechSpot for about 5 years, and then before that I was working at the Microsoft site NeoWin back in the day, covering all the Microsoft news, and then that was when I was in school. That was sort of my part-time job in school, which is kind of nice.
So you just skipped Coles, did you?
Skipped all the Coles stuff. Some of my mates were working at Coles.
Good choice.
While I was writing up all my tech stuff, because I was always really into that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just been doing this for a while now. And obviously I was at uni before, got my Master of Engineering, but not going to use that because this is a really good job.
Hopefully you won't have to use it.
Hopefully not. All right, the next question is also from YouTube, from the user Master Destroyer. Will we ever see a behind-the-scenes video or a how a hardware unbox video is made? And the answer to that is yes. On our Patreon page, if you support us through the appropriate tier, we provide behind-the-scenes videos. We've got one of those currently up. You'll give a sort of tour of your studio a little bit. We're going to have plenty more of those videos coming. We will be doing some stuff on how these videos are made. So,
want to cover some big benchmark sessions.
Should be really good.
So go sign up to Patreon today.
All right, another question from YouTube, this time from Itashi Yushiha. Hopefully I didn't butcher that one too badly. Can you use AMD Overdrive to undervolt the Ryzen 2500U like Intel XT for Intel chips? I get this question a lot in some of my videos on Ryzen Mobile about either underclocking or overclocking Ryzen, and as far as I'm aware, you can't. AMD Overdrive is not a feature that's included in the drivers for Ryzen Mobile. You can't go into that section of Radeon software or anything at the moment. Just looking around as well, looks like no one else has been able to overclock or underclock these chips. Obviously, they're very rare in the market, so there's not a lot of testing that can be done. But as far as AMD Overdrive support for overclocking or underclocking, it just doesn't exist at the moment.
All right, next question is from YouTube, and it has been asked by Dabs Gaming. What's the longest you've spent benchmarking in a single run? Like total hours spent in a row benchmarking.
You're the benchmark master. What's your record here?
I don't know. When they go that long, I don't even want to know. There'd be plenty that were at least 16 hours for sure. Just in the last few months, I would have done plenty of those. I try to split them up, like do a bit of benchmarking, a bit of something else, and have a few videos on the go. But sometimes you just got to I suppose the recent one would have been the security stuff, the meltdown of Spectre. I remember I drove to one of the local computer stores, which is about half an hour from my place, grabbed the Asus motherboard, the Z370 board, got home, tested so I did a fresh install of Windows, installed all the applications and games, and that probably just that was 4 or so hours roughly. I don't know, I didn't really pay attention. Then I applied the meltdown update, redid all of that, so at least another 4 hours. Then applied the BIOS update, so again, another 4 hours. And then looked at all the data I'd gathered, and there was a few weird things like you get, so then you go recheck those, and then sometimes that means uninstalling updates or rolling back. I think I rolled back the BIOS, then updated it, rolled it back 2 times, updated it half a dozen times, and that would have been well over 16 hours of straight testing, and then I got the video out a day or so later. And then Ryzen was another big one, Ryzen 7. I think I didn't sleep for 2 or 3 days on that one. And I passed out. I had to because I just couldn't get it working, and it turned out it was all BIOS issues. All
right, the final question for our Q&A video for January comes from Adrian Gaming on YouTube. They ask, would you take a chance on an obscure monitor company, e.g. Viotech, for a product that's a great price and on paper has great specs? So the bottom line is, in some cases, you really should be looking at those products because the panels themselves are not made by the El Cheapo companies. They're all known brands that produce them for all sorts of companies like AU Optronics, Samsung, Sharp. A lot of these companies produce them for all the brands. So a lot of those El Cheapo monitors have, the exact same panel as a more expensive one. It's just trying to find the good quality panels for a lower price. But at the same time, you can run into a number of issues with the cheaper brands. Things like warranty and support can be non-existent. So if you're really wondering about your warranty and being able to send your monitor back, those are things you probably won't get as well from those cheaper brands. Things like build quality, calibration out of the box, you probably won't get. So, and the on-screen display can be dodgy and those sort of things. So if you're after just the panel, you will tend to get that from the cheaper brands, but all those other things you'll probably end up sacrificing.
Yeah, if the power supply is in the monitor and things like that, they fail. And yeah, so it definitely comes down to, probably the big one, as you say, is warranty. I think we were talking about this the other day, and I was saying it really comes down to how much you are saving.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if it's a massive saving, sure. And when I was looking at TVs, it was like the Samsung TV was $2,000, for example, and the same panel in a cheaper brand was like $1,000, and it looked very much the same. So it's like, well, if I buy the $1,000 one, and the Samsung warranty is only 2 years anyway, if you don't buy extended warranty and all that. And so if it goes 2 years and then dies, well, I could potentially just buy another one and I will have been where I would have been, or in 2 years you can get something better because that sort of technology moves quickly. But if you're only if you're only saving a small percentage of what the known brand is, then I'd shy away from that. Because if you go into your local computer store or whatever it might be, your local hi-fi store, and you buy a monitor, take it home and the power supply dies in it or something wrong, you can usually just walk back in there off the street and say, this is broken, and they'll help you out. Whereas these ones that come from China, from an eBay seller or whatever, it's like, good luck.
Yeah, and if you do send it back, it'll cost you a lot to send a monitor back, like hundreds of dollars of postage to get those things.
And that's a massive risk in itself, because I've had situations, I think it was a tablet, and it was $50 to send that back, and then I just never heard anything.
Yeah, so...
And they were meant to be a reputable seller on eBay. They had really good... But after you've already given feedback, you've had it for, 30 days and it's been good. So, yeah, it's kind of like a gamble. If you're willing to risk that money, you may come off with a great product. You could buy 4 things from them, have a great experience, or you might buy once and have a terrible experience.
So it's risky, but you certainly can get some good deals and some really shocking deals too. So just have to be careful. All right, so that brings us to the end of our January look at our questions that we got from all of our places. So thanks to everyone for sending those in and continuing to support the channel. It's always really nice to get so many questions that we have to choose from for these sort of videos. We'll, I guess, be doing another one of these come next month. We'll get together again.
Should be this time next month.
Do some more Q&A stuff and ask for your questions once again. So I guess that's it for this video. Got anything else to say, Steve?
That's it. I think that's, you've covered it all well. We've hopefully addressed all the questions and you're satisfied with our answers. And you're happy or excited to see us do it again.
Yeah, so I guess we'll be catching you next time.
See you next time.